Welcome to Charmed Life, a radio show discussing spirituality, magic, and the unconditional love of the universe. Thanks for tuning in. And I'm your host, Tricia Carr. Welcome to this episode of Charmed Life. I'm really excited. Oh my gosh, it's another one that is just beyond my wildest dreams. And I'm super excited to dive in with the guest that we have today. And I just want to tell you before we start that you can watch this program on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/Tricia Carr, and you can find it while we're actually live streaming it on Sundays at 11 a.m. Pacific. And then, of course, that's where they are housed as a video podcast. Other things I actually post up there as well on my YouTube channel, different kinds of teaching, channeled messages and whatnot. And then you can listen on our podcast feed. Find us on any way that you get your podcast. Just search Charmed Life with Tricia Carr. I would love for you to like, subscribe, share, comment, review. Anything that you can do to add your light to this program is so very appreciated. Also, I would love to direct you to my website, triciacarcharm.com. If you go to Mystic Arts Academy, you'll be able to find the classes that I'm offering. And for example, I have my comprehensive animal communication course, which you can access on demand now, and then have the group training when we do that in the fall of 2019. And one more thing, twice monthly, I have an intuitive mediumship development class. We have today, actually, I have one after the show. So if you're listening live, you could still join. As far as I recall, I think there are still spots available. We will be talking about the July eclipses. Mercury retrograde actually starts today. We're also going to talk about how to live in flow with the lunar cycle, which is living in flow is a part of what we're going to talk about today on this program. And you can join. Some people will be there practicing their reading, so you may snag a reading, or you may be able to actually practice reading if that's something that you are doing, and I will coach you in that. Or if you are not at the place where you are doing the intuitive or medium readings, then you can just be a part of it and enjoy the light. All right, now, without further delay, I'm so excited to invite back on the show again. And this is, I believe, her fourth time. I cannot even believe that she's been on even one time. Author and intuitive Penney Peirce. Welcome to the show, Penney.
Oh, it's so good to be back.
I just love spending time with you. And by the way, Penney, you do one-on-one sessions still, yes? Because I've had a one-on-one session with you. Yes, so you guys, you got to go check out. I can't even believe it when I discovered that you were doing one-on-one sessions, because you are an incredible author. You've been such an important part of my journey as a teacher, as a mentor, even though, through the works that you have published, that's, you've been a mentor to me and many other people that I know. So, but you can actually snag a session with Penney. It's crazy. It's amazing. I just love that. I love that you, I want to say still doing one-on-one sessions. It's something that you just love to do, I assume, yes?
I think it balances me out. There's teaching, I thought about it this way. There's some time that you spend just by yourself, like writing a book or doing some kind of creative work where it's just you in the imaginal realm. Then there's one-on-one, like relationship kind of work. And then that's, feeds your soul. And then there's small group work and large group work. And I like to rotate through those, and if one of them gets missing for too long, I feel really incomplete. If there's a spectrum of self that you want to make sure you get all those octaves in there.
I so agree. And I actually one time sat with my guidance system and said, what is my focus? And I outlined it into 5 things, like kind of like what you said. It's like 1, 2, 5, 20, 1 million. Like that's what I like. Shoot, am I supposed to focus more?
It's a different kind of energy at each focus too, and and the things you get back from it, really round you out, I think. So. Yeah. That
actually kind of feeds really well into one of the topics we wanted to tackle today, and that's the right brain, left brain, because I think that probably, using those hemispheric types of modes of the mind flow in each and every one of those, but there maybe sometimes is a bit more of when you're talking about the imaginal realm of the writing, you're kind of pretty much in that right, and then you have to write first, edit later. The editing is the part that becomes very left-brained, I would say. Yeah. So let's. I would love to dive into that. I guess maybe we should first, in case some folks have not really, I've heard about this right brain, left brain thing, but what does that mean? So how would you describe what those different modalities of the mind are?
Good diagram. Now, this is very oversimplified, right,
Mm-hmm.
for brain experts that,
Yeah.
but I think we just need to understand the brain in a simplistic way in the beginning anyway.
Yes.
But the right brain, let's say, is the place where we have no language. It is just like a direct immersion into the field of life, the way an animal might be,
Mm-hmm.
like there's no differentiation between anything, and there's knowing that's all at once. So sometimes you could call it a field perception if you
Yeah.
wanted.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so you get impressions and patterns, and but it's experiential mainly.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas in the left brain, then that's where we kind of separate out and be the observer and look back at things.
Mm-hmm.
And then we can describe it, and we use language here to kind of drop the frequency of that large thing down enough that we can say it's a such and such and put a
Yeah.
label on it, and then make meanings. But
Yes.
what happens with the left brain then is it compartmentalizes, it analyzes, it defines, and then once it's defined something, it feels secure, and
Mm.
so it doesn't want to change again. So it makes rules, and we
Yes.
can get very locked down in that. But you can't really be a human being all the way and live totally in your right brain,
Mm-hmm.
you know
Yes.
because I forget, I think it was Terence McKenna said something like that the function of the left brain is to interrupt the right brain, because and that's like give it a focus,
Yes.
point at something, and
Mm-hmm.
then that thing comes up and you can look at it and interact with it and make it real, and then reality actually becomes real, you
Yes.
know right? So we need our left brain, but we shouldn't identify with it. Do you know what I mean? It's
Absolutely.
we are not just that little part of the mind that makes up rules and words and definitions and all of that, you know. Um, so ideally, what we want to do is rock back and forth and start integrating both sides of this is the upper part of the brain, right? The
Mm-hmm.
neocortex,
Mm-hmm.
the left and right hemisphere. We want to integrate those so that we have a process, let's say, between accessing accurate, high level, high frequency information, which would be let go of the left brain, move over to the right brain, open up, kind of formulate your need, or feel your need. You wouldn't formulate it, you would experience it.
Mm-hmm.
And then you would start to see what feelings and states of being come to you. And then that passes over to the left brain, and you say, aha, it's like a blah, 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 blah,
Yeah.
and you define it, right?
Yes, the what was coming to me is that the right brain experience is the part of your mind that experiences the story, or you might say feels or receives, co-creates, and then the left brain is the part of you that tells the story, organizes the information so that it has structure, so that it is. I've said before that we are actually the story of source energy. Being a manifestation of that limitlessness, there has to be a story in there. Otherwise,
Yeah. Well, story is
yeah.
language
Yes,
again.
exactly.
So you can tell when you're in your left brain if you're talking to yourself in your head,
Mm-hmm.
or we're talking now.
Mm-hmm.
And in order to go into the right brain, which is intuition, right?
Right.
You have to stop talking.
Yes.
You have to go into silence and drop into your body, into your being, into kind of a communion state with the field of energy around you, and open up and open up. And so you're not praying and talking, I need an answer to this, and you're not talking.
Yes.
You're having a feeling state,
Mm-hmm.
right? Where you just have almost like a need,
Yes.
for more knowledge
Yeah.
or an answer.
An opening, yeah, a
Yeah,
magnetism for it.
a
Mm-hmm.
magnet really
Mm-hmm.
is what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think the ideal process then would be when you need to know something, don't just go to your left brain
Yeah.
to know it, because the left brain is actually not in the present moment.
And it's where everything has already been created. So if you want something new,
right.
you don't go
That's
to where
it.
things already are. I say that's
It.
where we keep things that are already dying, honestly. I mean, they've already
That's a good way to say it.
materialized. They're
But
on the
it's
way
like
out.
the left brain is in the past. And
Yes.
so it has a great body of knowledge of what has worked before,
Mm-hmm.
although that may be totally inappropriate for what's going on in your present moment right now. But if you go there, you will react. When we go into
Yes.
reactionary mode, it's because you went to the left brain to look at the earlier similar kind of things that happened to me.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them may be absolutely, you know, in a way illogical, or they don't make sense at all. They're just reactionary things. A dog barked in your face when you were 2 years old, so now
Yeah.
you don't like anything coming at you too fast, or and it could be a new opportunity in
Right.
life.
And this when it does that interruption, so if it's the dog barking, if there's a fear response or a reactionary response, it is actually pointing us back to the place where we want to create the magnetism of the need or the desire, the thing that would be the new kind of fulfillment that we're reaching for. Really, it's like the right brain is the magnetism of the electromagnetic field, and then the left brain would be the electric, the giving, the releasing or the structuring of the electromagnetic field.
Yeah,
And
that's good.
and
Yeah.
they point one to the other, right?
Yeah, and I think what you're saying is that if you do go into a reactionary mode,
Mm-hmm.
there's I think it's like an intuitive skill to notice that that's what you're doing.
Yes.
When you're going, oops, I'm back in my 2-year-old self.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're projecting those old experiences not only onto the present experiences, but onto the future as well.
Yes.
So things get very limited when you only work with that one side of the brain. And and then, I mean, it gets worse because we are so analytical and detailed and logical in our society today, and we
Yes.
revere science and
Mm-hmm.
academia. And so a lot of times people will not trust anything that doesn't have proof,
Mm-hmm.
that really isn't rigorous, as they say,
Right.
And when that happens, then you cut off your intuition, which means you cut off any just right, perfectly appropriate information that would come into right now that would meet the situation perfectly.
Mm-hmm. And science
And
happens, the way it makes advancements is by being in that right brain, in the chaos, and
that's right.
where it's not defined.
All good scientists and
Mm-hmm.
creative people always are accessing that right brain.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them do it, the big breakthroughs through
Tesla.
Somebody was dreaming,
Yes.
And they dreamed about the Ouroboros, the
Mm-hmm.
snake biting its tail, and then that showed them something about how energy worked or some invention, and yeah, as soon as you can let go of that strong, and the other thing about the left brain is it's about willpower.
Mm-hmm. Because
And
it's thought, because will is thought. So again, if we're thinking about maybe
right.
the feeling or raw emotional kind of magnetism becomes more defined with a thought, the language.
Yeah.
So willpower is kind of, again, redoubling down on the language or the created structure. But yes, the
Exactly.
willpower. Uh-huh.
And I think it relates also to the fact that in the left brain, you separate from the unified field, from the right brain.
Yes.
And it's a function that allows us to be conscious and have self-consciousness and individuality. So that's important, but it also causes isolation, where we get in our individuality so much that we perceive ourselves as separate from our goals or the future or the past, or, all these things we could project out to, we see as separate. And then we feel like often, if the world isn't agreeing with us, that we're going to have to do everything all by ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And then that leads to a very strong emphasis on willpower. Like, okay, nobody's going to help me out there in the world. I have to do it alone. I can do it,
Yeah.
and pump up your strength and domination.
And then we get into a bad place of wanting to force our will on the field, but the field will then correct us because it's
Right.
unified. You know what I mean?
Backfire one way or another.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think this all leads to, if you get so used to working from the left brain only, and you don't even, of course, we all go into the right brain, but we do it unconsciously.
Yes.
And of course, we do it when we sleep, but we don't notice when we space out, which is often where we're accessing material in that higher field. But when you're so much in the left brain, you start to identify with the left brain, and you think you are that, or you are like that. And that's where ego comes in, I think.
Yes.
And too much left brain identity, and you become the ego.
Right.
And then too much ego, and you become narcissistic.
Yes.
And I don't think we all understand that well, what narcissism is. But it's basically this feeling that I am really separate from the rest of the world and no one loves me. So I'm going to have to be clever, smart, good looking, powerful, rich, blah, 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 all these athletic and everything. And so then they will like me. And then they developed a lot of charm to get people to come in and get connected to them and win them over. But basically, it's all about the fact that I want the outer world to agree with the way I have things set up.
In that space of thought. So it's, very limited then, and depending on things that are, again, already dying. So it's it's never satisfying.
No. And, and the fact is it's exhausting because when you are, you have to do it all and you have to make other people agree with you constantly. And of course, with narcissism, if people don't agree with you, they do a couple of things. They'll get extremely charming and try to, win you over. I always think of Trump with this because,
we're all thinking the second
how great everything is and it's all wonderful, and charming things back into play. And if that doesn't work, then they will get mad and try to intimidate people back into, sort of submission and agreement. And if that doesn't work, they will really go ballistic and they will get rid of people. They will abandon people out of their lives with not a second glance, and because I really feel like I've learned a lot about this, but I feel like narcissists do not know what love is.
Yeah.
They equate love with agreement.
Yes.
So if you don't have the agreement, basically you start to go into a kind of a terrified state. Like I'm going to go in the void and I'll be nothing,
Right.
and actually this equates back. I'm sorry, I'm on a rant here, but
go
back to the process we all are going through in spiritual growth, which is ego death.
Yes.
The ego is not the boss, right? It has to be the servant, the implementer of all the stuff that the right brain and soul and the intuition brings in as content. Then the left brain says, okay, let's do that. I can make that happen.
Yes.
But then let go of it at the end after you've finished it, and go back to the right brain again to get more good stuff.
The left brain is the assistant. It's meant to be the one in the passenger seat to, it's not the boss. It doesn't have anything new. Right. It doesn't have new information. Right. It doesn't.
No.
It's
it really, as much as it thinks it has to do everything itself, I think it operates off of this idea that I never know enough.
Right. Yes. And it doesn't because that's not its job.
Right.
Its job is to receive.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And you can just see this becoming very, very visible through politics right now in the world. And I'm not trying to judge anybody, but I think it's fascinating that we are getting in touch with this overuse of the left brain perception and its limitation. While right now we're starting to go into the intuition age out of information, which is linear, and so we're opening into the right brain perception and how those two are going to merge now. And I think it's educational, if nothing else,
Yes, absolutely. And with it's like the power is in the awareness between the two functions. Because when we're in the space of receiving and then we're moving it over into the creator of language, or the one that gives form to it, the right to the left, being in that position and then paying attention to the left brain throwing up those flags and saying, this wants awareness. This is looping. This is looping. There's a reason it's looping, is because it wants to have a deepened awareness around it, which we can only find again in that space of the what we call the right brain function.
Yeah.
So there's power there in that
I think
little
there
apex.
is quite a skill in learning to do this figure eight flow.
Yes.
Back and forth, so that we don't get stuck either place. Because if you're too in the right brain, you can't access anything.
So let's talk about that. Being stuck in the
ozone.
In the astral, and I think we have a little bit of that hypnosis, but it's an unconscious kind. We're talking about when you're stuck. It's an unconscious kind of non-grounded, hypnotic, hypnoidal. And I think some of that may have to do with what we're doing with our devices and our technology. We're just diving in there unconsciously, and now we're in an imaginal world where we're not actually, in a proper receiving mode. We're kind of in this. Yeah, let's talk about that a little bit.
Shallow.
Yes, shallow.
That's a good point. That's a really good point, because I think, the devices are extremely left-brained in the way they function. And yet they're providing a service, which is kind of strange. It's like a sense of belonging, or an instantaneous connectedness that people crave. But that's, it's an artificial way of getting that.
Yes.
Because if you just close your eyes and get quiet, you can start to feel into the field, where everything's interconnected. Every molecule's passing in and out of every other molecule. It's everything, really, because the molecules, what do you want to say? The atoms kind of bounce out and go into no form, and then they come back, and they may be in, on the other side of the planet.
Right.
So everything is connecting to everything.
And that's
and
the
part
urge.
Of this one big consciousness.
Yeah, and that's the urge. It is very much, it's artificial, like you said. It's sort of like taking a drink or drugs or something to release your inhibitions, which is what we think about, or to get into a false sense of relaxation or an artificially imposed nervous system depression, so that we can be out of the stress, fight flight kind of function. But again, it's not true. It's not a real. It's not a profound experience. It's not a full whole experience, as it is. So when we dive into through the left brain kind of function of the device and the technology, with the urge to connect, it's actually artificial. And so again, it's never satisfying. And that's how we dump hours into something like that. We didn't even and got nothing from it for the most part.
Yes.
Yes.
It's like you're giving the responsibility for your experience of connectedness to the machine.
Yes.
And
the
then
imaginal world of Instagram or something, just the imagination diving into it. And that's why we spend so much time there. It's like, or another example that's coming up is when you're hungry, eating a bag of Cheetos, and you're still hungry at the end of it, but you have had too many calories.
Right. That's true. But now I see, a lot of young people that I know are getting meditation apps.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Right?
I'm on Insight Timer. I mean, I put meditations up on Insight Timer. I'm a teacher on Insight Timer.
Yeah, but I mean, still, that you have to have your phone and an app in order to get into this state.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
That you can't just learn to do it under your own steam, plain and simple, open to everything. I think that's the direction we're going to head eventually, that there'll be a backlash about AI and all this stuff. But right now, I think it's running concurrently. And I do think you're right that it frustrates the actual entry into the right brain.
Right.
And that right brain is just kind of like a little doorway, into spirit, if you will.
Yes.
Into that realm of unified consciousness. We call it spirit, or it could be like the collective consciousness, or the big soul, that the huge big unified soul or something. But that's when we start feeling depressed and separate and isolated, it's that we're separated from that experience, not actually from other people, but from that experience. And we're hoping the other people will be like the meditation app. They'll give us the experience of connectedness. Mm-hmm. But actually, you don't find that really until you get it yourself. Oh, that's so trite, but, you can try to have a relationship to give you all of that. But in the end, the other person's not connected. You won't get it from them, if they don't have the inner connection.
And what it comes down to is, well, like the left brain being a tool. And it's interesting that you're talking about like using meditation apps or using guided meditations that are basically a language. It's a speaking of the experience of meditation. And that is actually a tool. And when I'm teaching students, teaching people to meditate, I say it's great, do guided meditations, and especially as you're starting your practice. But really, we want to be able to do it without any tools because it's yours. We wouldn't want to be addicted to it. And I recently had a client who was talking about her meditation practice, and we were talking about how she was a little bit. She has so much knowledge. She's read so many books, and she's done all the and it's kind of like time to put down those tools and just start being. And she's like, I have so many meditations to do and I haven't done yet. And I'm like, oh, hold on. Meditation isn't a to-do list. I didn't realize when she said I had them to do, I just saw them stacked up like books to read or things to check off on a list. I'm like, no. It's really interesting. And so the point of the tool is to get you to that connection to the limitless place, which is yours entirely and not beholden to any other tool. The tool is meant to be the trigger or the door, the instigator.
And really that connection place is like I always think of it just a hair of a turn to the left or right. Mm-hmm. And you can be in that space.
Yes.
It's just right there. It doesn't require a lot of rigmarole to get there. But I mean, like you said, we use like card readers or something. Mm-hmm. They'll, use cards or throw the bones or whatever. And then they learn, I already know that. So I don't really have to use the interpretation skills to understand what I'm seeing because I already get what the message is,
Yes.
So
they could be there to enhance things. Mm-hmm. Tools can be there to enhance too when you get to that place. So there's nothing wrong with the tools. That's awesome. Yeah. And whether we're talking about you're doing like literally in the divination tools or something like that. But that's another thing that I do when I'm working with students developing their intuition. I'm like, start working with cards, with the oracle cards, because it's basically just a book with the pages torn out. And then you're just kind of seeing how you're intuiting this relationship of the information that's coming to you, working with energy and that whole attractiveness. But then after a while, do your feeling of it, do your intuiting of it, and then pull the card. And then that's a second step where you can see the tool supports you and you can see that it really is my own magic. It is my own doing, not doing, but being that is the experiencer.
Yeah.
Rather than getting addicted to it again, like we are with our technology.
Exactly. Uh-huh. Exactly. I guess maybe that's a bit of a symptom of a left brain addiction is that with the left brain addiction, we are defining things. We're getting ideas and that becomes a meaning. And then we make a definition of that. And then we make a rule of that. And that becomes like a thing,
Yes.
Just like we say, okay, this is a table and, it'll keep being a table for quite a while. And I can count on that being there because the left brain, I think really likes, after a while, it likes security. Mm. After it starts making all these definitions, then it wants them to kind of stay that way. Yes. And so that works against us in terms of growth because, anytime you want to try a new thing or go beyond your comfort zone, the left brain will suddenly feel threatened, or that kind of consciousness will feel threatened and will start to spew out a lot of negative declarative statements. Yes. Well, I don't know how to do that, or I'm scared of heights, or I'm like, blah, blah, blah.
Labels.
Goes on, and so it tries to keep you from starting anything new. And so I think one of the good ways people always are talking about how they feel stuck right now, and I say, well, what are your negative declarative statements that your left brain is saying that's actually not you? It's not you.
Right.
You might have inherited this from parents or from society. Like it's not, if you're a woman, it's not, or a girl, it's not good to be too big, too loud, too aggressive, too powerful.
Too blonde.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah, right.
You have to watch the video. Penny and I are both quite blonde.
That came out very big for me when I went to Japan in my early 30s.
Oh, I'll bet. Yeah.
Oh, I could never know anything. I was too young and all that. But anyway, yeah. So you get those ideas, and then when you start to grow, you're challenging those ideas, and of course they come up. And when those ideas come up, out of the subconscious, really, or out of the suppressed area of your mind, then they start to act out in real life.
Yes.
And you get an experience that sort of revalidates that to you if you let it.
Because that's the order you've placed with the universe. That's the order you've placed with the field.
That's right. That's what you believe. That's your set of instructions to the unified field, right?
Yes.
And so that's what you get.
So the I am is actually the creator. It's the powerful. I last night as I was falling asleep, I was thinking of the Bible verse that Jesus saying, "I am the way, the truth, and the light. No one gets to the Father except through me." And as I feel that, not that that's just again a tool. I'm not a religious person, but I feel the wisdom there. If we take that statement, it is the I am, the function of I am. Is the way, the truth, and the light. So if it is, I am afraid of heights, we've taken this big, limitless, powerful creator essence and we've put it in the limitation of this other thing. And then,
very small experience.
Yes. And you know what?
Tight, small.
And when people ask me sometimes, because, I love mysticism and to me, that's an art form and it's it's a way to jump off into inspiration. And so someone says, do you believe in angels or do you believe in whatever, spirits, something like that. And so I like to actually just try not to identify I believe, because it's a kind of putting the I am into something. I try to say, well, my experience has been or is, or because I want my beliefs to be super malleable,
Well, you don't want to have beliefs at all, actually.
True, exactly. The beliefs are just language.
That's the left brain locking down an observation into a rule.
Mm-hmm.
And then people are proud of their beliefs, they defend them.
Yes.
But really, what's inside of a belief is an experience.
Mm-hmm.
Everything boils down to an experience at the end.
Mm-hmm.
And so what is the experience that you really want to have? And then you need to have language describe that experience accurately.
Yes.
And don't use words that limit, the way you can have experiences.
Right.
Right.
And beliefs, they tend to be because they are, I love the way that Abraham Hicks calls beliefs thoughts that you just keep thinking. And so I like thoughts to be, again, if beliefs, we all have beliefs to be malleable, because I want to think a new thought about, I have one thought, and then the next thought I have surrounding that topic, I would like it to be new, because it's
right. Well, you can
fresh.
Say it's like my observations are, or my,
experience.
What I've noticed is,
mm-hmm.
And you don't have to lock it down. I think that's one way we can really help ourselves get out of left brain addiction is notice what you're noticing. Notice the way you're talking,
mm-hmm.
The kind of words you're using, and make an attempt at shifting your language a lot so that you don't use the word belief, or I don't like the word intention.
Oh, really?
I've gotten to the point where that is, because that is futurizing something, and it's also using willpower to try to get something to happen. Mm-hmm. So, it's postponing it by putting it in the future. Whereas the real powerful word is attention.
Yes.
That is in the present moment. And so when you're talking about wanting something, for instance, a goal or a desire, you could just say, I want, I'm interested in, I'm curious about this, and I want the experience of this. Like I want a new computer. Well, I want the experience of greater scope or knowledge or skills that the computer would give me.
And so we place the awareness, awareness or attention upon that, so that we can call in the feeling state, which is, of course, we know that's how the things actually become the things, is the feeling state that we're maintaining with our attention. Mm-hmm.
That's right. And that feeling state really is you place attention on something and really keep your attention on it. Like, let's say you want more clients. Mm-hmm. Why do you want more clients? For the money? No, not really.
That's not sustainable.
Want it because it's fun.
Yes. Yeah. Money is fun too. So when you think of money, the reason
I'm not putting money down.
Oh, of course not. Yeah, but
I'm saying that,
get to the underneath of it. If money is the first thing you say.
Want?
Yes.
The soul wants an experience.
Mm-hmm.
And money is not exactly an experience. The body doesn't care about money because it's boring.
Yes.
But what it brings, what you can do with it, those kinds of things are good motivators for the body. And that you place attention on something, you keep your attention on it, you move. The more you put attention on something, the closer and closer and closer you get to it. And then it starts revealing layers of itself to you. And pretty soon you merge with it, right? Through attention, mm-hmm. You can start feeling into, and then you get what you said, that feeling state. And then you know it with your body as though it is normal and in the present moment. And as soon as you kind of get that, the universe sort of lines up, and you get synchronicities and stuff that happens. And suddenly there you have it. Things come into form to match that inner experience.
Magically. And that's actually the reason that I named this program Charmed Life. Part of it is because of having experiences where I just lined up in my feeling state, and then it showed up, even in a negative sense. That it was just feedback. I was like, I created this. Oh my wow. So we just created by just like absolutely having a clear frequency about it. Frequency is the name of one of your books. And so if we have that static going on in the frequency, if we're walking around with anxiety and guilt and frustration, those are all like duplicitous kinds of feeling states. How do you suggest, I know we have tons of suggestions. So how do people, and of course they're walking around then saying, I don't have time and all of this kind of stuff, which is again a creation of that left brain function. So what do folks do about that? What do we do about it with those frustrating and anxious and all of those feelings that we're walking around with the confused, staticky feeling state?
Yeah, well, I think first of all, you have to have a goal to have a certain kind of feeling state that you live within that you really enjoy. I call that your home frequency. Mm-hmm. But and you have to know it in comparison to those other states that you were just describing about being anxious or distracted or fragmented or, self-doubt and depression and all those things.
All of them.
And you know that I'm off of my crosshairs. I'm not in my state when I start to get like, kind of freaked out or my heart's pounding or something's going on that I'm in fear. Mm-hmm. Okay, I don't have to stay there. I can breathe and slowly remember the state I like and come back and get recentered in that. Mm-hmm. But you have to want it. Yeah. A lot of people, because they're in the left brain and addicted there, those statements are running you. Yes. You say, oh, I don't have time. Oh, I've got to do this. Or, oh, I can't do that. Or, I'll never get out of this. Like victim statements.
Yes.
And then those run you until you catch one of them and saying, why am I saying that? Look at this statement that I'm using to create my reality right now. Mm-hmm. And everybody will get to that point at some point and realize, hey, wait a minute, I'm responsible for the way I feel.
Yes.
What am I trying to say? It's like nobody else can make you feel good unless you want to feel good.
Yes.
And they can't make you feel bad if you don't want to feel bad.
Right.
So your responsibility, and that's not a negative, heavy word. It's like, that's what you get to control.
It's your ability to respond. You have that.
To respond, to be the way you want to be. Mm-hmm. That then creates everything else, right?
Yes.
That's that seek ye first the kingdom within thing. Mm-hmm. Then all else is added. You can't get it out there. You start the frequency and the state in here, which is going back to the brain thing. Yeah. That's the balanced brain. Mm. right? Where you're using all of yourself, not just one half or one third or whatever. You're using all of it in its own time. Everything's connected. And yet there's always that center point where you can just drop right back in. I call it the center of your ball, like
Yeah.
you're in the middle
Yes.
of a sphere all the time. Um, and, when you get to that place, then you think clearly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's interesting that you just brought up the seek ye first the kingdom of heaven and all these things will be added unto you as well, is because the last probably week or so, that's been off and on some of the kind of my mantra getting me into my meditation is the kingdom of heaven is within, find it, be with it. And not too long ago, a couple of weeks ago, I was feeling frustrated about something. It was probably technology. It was like messing up. And I was so frustrated. I was frustrated with myself for it. And I was like, okay, I'm going to have to close the doors and meditate. And it was like, it was so fast. It was like 3 seconds and I was in that kingdom of heaven and everything felt okay. And all of it melted away. And instantly the knowing or being about how that could serve me or whatever, why it was created or how, in the positive sense, all of the feedback coalesced into being. And it was so instant. And I was like, oh, that's right. That's where it is.
Whenever
amazing.
when I start to get back into that state after I haven't been in it for a while, everything starts to seem funny.
Yes, totally.
Like it's the cosmic joke, and then I just remember how joyful, but actually funny.
Yeah.
A lot of things are. And, and it's, I think, how did I forget that?
Totally, every time.
It got so heavy and serious,
It's kind of like a little kid getting frustrated with their play tools. And you don't want to laugh at them to their face, but it's cute. And that's how you kind of observe yourself like, oh, you silly thing. How did you forget?
I remember I had a really powerful dream once where these very tall alien beings were there. They had taken on disguises as different kinds of people, like a circus performer and and they were entertaining themselves as different kinds of people, and they were working with me. And I was standing next to two women who were, here I am, my normal height, and they were like 7 feet tall. And I said to them, gee, I just feel so stupid, compared to you, like I don't know anything. And they looked at each other and then they looked at me or no, they said to each other, oh, isn't she cute? She's pretending to be human.
I love that.
It's like, oh man, I think of that every now and then. It's like, we have to remember who we really are, out beyond all of this.
That's so awesome. She's pretending to be human. And I've actually had, I remember recalling when I'm doing, like, I like to channel classes, like, and I connect with the concept of there being archangelic energies. And so I don't remember what particular energy it was, but kind of saying how genius we were that we could pretend that we could create an illusion that that's what we all are. That's pretty brilliant because it's so untrue that that's all that we are, at least.
Right,
and it's pretty cool and brave as well. Very, very brave to pretend that you're human.
I know. But I mean, that also puts you in touch with the fact of how amazing the imaginal realm really is. Yes. And that we are these imaginal realm beings that can think up anything. Another dream I had once was someone was showing me a bed frame and a headboard that was carved minutely with all these figures, like teeny weeny things. And I looked at it and it was my life. All the events of my life that were done in, bas relief. And it went on and on and on and on. And it was like, and I went, wow, who did that? And then I realized I did. I made that up in a second in my dream.
Wow.
And I was like, oh amazing. My gosh, we are so amazingly creative that just have that one thought and the whole thing came into existence.
Can unfold that way. Yeah. Let's talk about those dream zones and interpreting symbols, right? And how we can consciously use those dreams. First of all, I want to say, a lot of people say I don't dream. And two things about that. There may be a biological reason for that. You may not be getting enough sleep. And so you're sleeping very, very hard. But second of all, it is a muscle. And so just to kick off the conversation a little, it's a muscle. So we start to open ourselves up to it, and also start to open yourself up to bringing it in through to the awake state by, charting it, writing it, journaling
Same thing
it.
we've been talking about. It's like we're accessing dreams with the right brain. And you do it during the day too. We
Absolutely.
daydream.
Yes.
We have visions and all that.
We go into
get
hypnosis
pictures.
in different ways. Yeah.
Yeah. And we're bringing it through and making it, getting the meaning from it. But, I have a book, it's an ebook. It's called Be the Dreamer, Not the Dream.
Ooh, cool. Okay.
And it is basically the idea that we have 24-hour consciousness. We don't just go unconscious when we go to sleep. We're maybe even more conscious in a way. And that we travel in and out through frequencies during the night, but also during the day. But at night, you can think of it as a little easier to imagine in a way that, depending on what kind of dream you're having, you might go through these dream zones, which are simply frequency levels. The physical frequency level, this zone we're dreaming in right now, is a kind of a dense one.
Yes.
Slower frequency energy. But then as you go out at night, you pass through these other zones. I mean, your consciousness moves through.
Yes.
And so you might go through the emotional dream zone, and that emotional dream zone has the lower and a higher level. It has the astral plane where a lot of disturbed beings are. And it's very upsetting to go through there. You might dream of swamps or, crazy stuff. But then the higher level of the emotional is the electromagnetic, where you can have love and motivation and attraction and all kinds of things. But then you move maybe more into the mental, and that has a lower and a higher too. Negative thinking and beliefs, limitation thoughts, and then inspiration and visions and guidance. And you go out into the spiritual, and then you end up in realms where you see guidance from enlightened beings, or the Akashic records of the planet, future events, So those are all frequency levels. There's nothing really very weird about it, and when you are meditating, you go to those same realms.
Right.
But the symbols that we receive, or the feeling states that when we come back to the body and wake up, we have to symbolize somehow. That's like a language, like a translation language, from these very abstract things we've been doing that are purely right brain experiential. They have to come back through some kind of feeling state, and then you get the meaning, and then they're in your left brain, and you describe it and you write it in your dream journal, or whatever, but it's fun to see what are we doing at night.
Yes.
When we're not limited so much by the left brain.
And the reason we're not is because we aren't as identified. Our attention isn't as much upon the body because the consciousness is lightening up from it. We put the body, the brain.
And we're not stuck. Yeah, and the body for sure, but also the left brain.
Exactly.
The shoulds.
Right.
We go beyond that, and then we're free to fly, to swim, to do things that you're not allowed to do in physical reality.
Right.
And learn things too. Go visiting. It's instantaneous travel, and it's so much fun.
Yes, definitely. And again, it's the same state as, same thing we can access with meditation, because as you're talking about the different frequencies, we see that in a biofeedback kind of an experience with the brain waves. The brain waves actually we have them categorized into different speeds of high and low. And we do that in our meditation as well. We go to, we go from beta to alpha, and then we can go deeper into trance states that are more delta and theta. And that's the
and we do that in sleep.
Exactly.
Right. We definitely move out through alpha, and we will go through cycles through the night of theta and delta, and then back and in and out. And those correspond with REM sleep, and when you're dreaming.
Yes.
And I think those correlate with what I was calling dream zones.
Yes, exactly. That's what I was hearing. The dream zones. They're sort of correlating with those different upon the spectrum of frequencies of consciousness that we can experience. And just the tool of the physical brain, we can, again, observe that there are these different frequencies that we're emitting. And that, I think that correlates to going into the higher and the lower speeds of these dimensions or zones, you may call it.
Because I think we go wherever we want to go, you know, in consciousness. We're free, pretty much.
Yes.
Except when we're waking, we're awake, we have rules, you know, and then we don't let ourselves go into these places.
Right.
Except when you start to become more intuitive, you free yourself to be able to access more of those realms and the realities of those realms, because they're not fictitious. That's what you start learning, is that it's all real.
It's all real. Everything. You can't imagine non-reality. We can't imagine. I'm actually quoting Bashar, channeled by Darryl Anka. You cannot imagine a non-reality. And the non-physical or the potential always precedes the actual. So the potential is at least as real. It's more real from some perspectives. And so the potential or the attention state is that imaginal, is the feeling state where we're talking about there, but it is the experience. It's the only thing that is, because then when the thing shows up, the event or the physical expression of it, it's about the feeling state. That's the whole point.
Yeah. That's why I think attention is probably the most powerful skill we can have now and develop now, because it directs the flow of the way our reality materializes.
Attention feels like that PowerPoint between observing what the left brain may be kicking up or how it can be funneled into, and then directing the right brain. That's what it feels like when you talk about attention to me.
Yeah, and becoming one with the moment.
Yes.
So then that empowers the flow. And the flow to me is the collective consciousness of all beings evolving together.
Yes.
You know, and that includes trees and insects and you know, plants and everything. That we are all helping each other evolve.
Yes.
And if you stop the flow with negative thinking or too much left brain activity or whatever, then you don't serve other people.
Yes.
You don't help the flow. And then it can't help you either. So you have to learn to trust that openness, that the flow will bring you exactly what you need next, because everybody's voting for you. You know, they want
because they need you.
They need you.
Yes.
Yeah. And so I think then that we need to trust dreams as well, because if there's anything that's stuck in our subconscious mind or too much in the left brain or whatever, those things will be brought up to the surface when we're not so dictatorial. You know, like when you're awake, your left brain pushes down the fear stuff that you don't want to have to experience because it would be threatening.
Yes.
And so we have a lot of suppression and denial going on, and righteousness, and I have to believe that, control and all that during waking hours. At night, that's gone. So all this stuff's floating around, you know, and you put your attention on it and it comes close to you.
Yes.
Now you can engage with it, and if you stay in it, you can work it through and complete the thing and see the other side of it, and it'll dissolve. You know, and you can do that when you're awake too, by meditating into these things. But I think dreams often are very helpful in accelerating the clearing process.
The clearing process, yes. And I'm in hypnotherapy college, and we talk about the dreams that you have, especially in the morning. Those are the ones you tend to remember. That a lot of the time, if not most or portions of those dreams, are venting. So it's actually what the work you've already done. Now, if it becomes a recurring dream, it's because you're not allowing yourself to move your attention beyond it. And we sometimes think like, well, it's some kind of doomsday thing that's coming, you know, because I thought about, you know, losing my job, or I thought about cheating on my partner. And no, that those are you venting those experiences, those fears. And if you bring your attention around it and wrap it with acceptance and integration, then you're allowing yourself to move beyond it.
Like an example is, I used to have a repeating dream of dying by falling. And I would like be in the back seat of a car that was going to crash, but it would end up going over a cliff, or, you know, just all these different things. And I wasn't, you know, really repeated until I had one of my first readings from a woman who read the Akashic records and told me about my last lifetime, where I died by sleepwalking out a window.
Oh, no.
Like an old, and I was an old man in that life, and walked off the, you know, how in the East Coast, they often have roofs over their porches, their screen porches, and windows up on the hall above. And somehow went out that, walked right off the end of the thing. As soon as I had that knowledge, and it popped in my head like, oh my gosh, I had one more dream where I was falling out of a tree in slow motion, going through the stages of dying by falling. How you, oh, look what's happening to me. Oh, no, that's not really happening to me. Oh, yes, it is happening. Oh, this is going to be bad, blah, 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 boom. And, but it was like I got to process it consciously.
Yes.
And they all stopped.
Wow, that's amazing.
So somehow the inner world of the dreams and what was actually had happened that I didn't complete previously because I didn't have time to do it, came back so that I could re-experience it. But I had to have the outer world give me a reaffirmation of what was true before the inner finished.
Yes.
And I figure that woman who gave me that information, she was part of the whole plan to help me out,
What a
so
beautiful
we get
story.
what we need.
Yes. Everything that is offered to us is what we need.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. I call it, you were talking about the field basically, and the system of all of the collective beings, the collective consciousness. I call it the ecosystem, is a way that I think about it, because I like to because nature, I think we all understand nature, even if we aren't farmers. We get it because we are nature. So we understand it, and I think that's why maybe Jesus did use nature to teach, and all of the teachers were saying, you're supposed to use these dusty scrolls, and he's like, but they get seeds, like we all get seeds.
This is more universal.
Yes. And so that's why I say the ecosystem, because when the seed, I actually put a meditative journey on my YouTube channel recently called I am a seed. I am a seed in the earth's soil. And as that seed has that information inside their home frequency, as you call it, and it feels its own home frequency more, then it actually starts to express and send a signal out, and then the ecosystem sends it the nutrients that it's calling for, that it requires, so that it can be the flower or the whatever it's going to be, the offering to the ecosystem. And that's the truth of what we are. And that's why the home frequency is expending time in that home frequency is so important.
It's important. And I just was flashing as you were talking about the seed. It's like almost at any stopping point where you think about yourself at whatever level you're at, that's a seed.
Yes.
Of the next level.
Right.
But it's always that home frequency, that soul vibration that is the hidden information.
Yes.
And there's always more. There's so much potential in us that I can't imagine getting depressed and committing suicide, because then I wouldn't find out what's in there that I could be doing or being. I wouldn't, if I just lived another week longer, maybe I'd find out more.
Yes.
And so life is just like this constantly unfolding kaleidoscopic thing that's, to me, it's just so amazing.
It is so amazing. And what else is amazing is that I think we're over time besides being out of time. Oh gosh, I feel like it's been 5 minutes.
I know. That always happens.
Yes. Well, I mean, but I could just talk to you for hours and hours, and it's such an honor to be able to connect with you. Do you have some workshops or anything, books or anything that you would like to share that are coming up, some things that folks can connect with you on?
My latest book is called Transparency.
Yes.
And it is, I have 4 books now that are part of this transformation series that, Intuitive Way, Frequency, Leap of Perception, and now Transparency.
Yes.
And, it's all, every one of them is like a next step beyond the previous one.
Mm-hmm. They're all amazing.
And so and then I just finished the first round of a course called Become an Expert Intuitive, which we'll probably repeat and do more modules for.
And that can be found on your website? That's something that's on demand?
Yeah, and I'm just having a new website pretty soon, another week or so. It'll be all redesigned and new stuff on there. So.
Oh, that's so exciting.
Keep checking.
Okay. Become an Expert Intuitive. Is that the name of the program?
Yep.
And it's something that can be accessed on demand, and
it should be soon. Yeah.
Okay. Great. Good. Oh, yeah. I can't wait. I'm going to go check that out. And I can't wait to see your new website. Isn't it exciting to get a brand new it's like a fresh outfit.
It is. It is. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, lose your old self and rethink the kind of energy you want to put out and the scope and all of that, like I said, the seed is sprouting.
All the colors of that home frequency are starting to outpicture. It's really cool. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, again, we're going to get on a thing again. And your website is pennypeirce.com. All of the information about how you can connect with Penny and her website is right there in the show notes or the description, however you are accessing this program. And I just, again, thank you so much for all of the work that you do on our beautiful world, Penney Peirce. It's just a tremendous honor.
Same to you.
And thank you again, everyone, for joining us here. We will be back on the next episode, of course. Actually, on the next episode, I have Felicia Bender, numerologist. So I'll see you next time. Thanks for tuning in. I love you, whoever you are.